Hi Scorpio, this is Jill and welcome to Tarot by the Sea. Right, this is just a bit of fun, okay? It's Halloween. I love the fact that it's Halloween and I am going to do a 12 card spread. These are running long, I warn you. Virgo's was 1 hour 23 minutes, nearly 24 minutes, a second off. But they're for the year, so they're going to be a little bit longer. You don't have to watch them all at once. You've got an entire year to watch them. So this is from Halloween to Halloween next year, okay? So we'll be looking at it in blocks of 3 months. I will be using the Wisdom of the Oracle card. Sorry, let me move my coffee card. There we go, Wisdom of the Oracle cards by Colette Baron Reid. And also one of the Doreen Virtue sets. I think it's the Archangel Tarot. I'm not entirely sure. It came in a kit. It was one of the first sets that I got, and it came in a kit, and I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it's one of them. So, here we go. I didn't get your bi-weekly out because I did 11 readings for you, and I was having massive IT problems. I actually have massive IT problems today, so I hope these get out because I've just spent the last 3 hours talking. And I'm not entirely sure how to get them onto YouTube because for some reason it won't do it. So if you get this, thank God for that, that's what I'm saying. Right, so first card that you have for November is Mending in Reverse. Oh my goodness, what is going on? Right, Mending in Reverse, No Place Like Home, and Flexible. They're your first 3 cards. I'm going to shuffle these ones too. I mean, this is not going to be, it's not going to resonate with everyone anyway. But even if it does resonate with you, you're not going to know for months because this is for a year. So it might be worth just liking it, adding it to your liked videos, and then you can refer back to it as time goes on. And we will see how they go. I've never done a year ahead before. I've never done a year ahead before, and this is the first time. The last lot of videos that I did were the first time I've ever read for a group as well. So it's a bit like, okay, massive group of people over a year. And I cooked 12 of them out today, and you're my third, and it is now 1:30. So let's see how we go. I don't actually always need to pick these. This is telling me when to stop, so it's telling me to stop now. It's really funny, this has come out as the marker card like 4 times for telling me when to stop, this gentleness card. It's really strange. Okay, on the bottom of your deck you have Higher Power, which I think will mean that we are referring to those cards at some point. Okay, I might need to stop and drink at some point. I apologise if I do. I don't like doing that. But I have been talking constantly for 3 hours, so my throat is starting to... I qualified as a teacher last year, so I'm used to talking, but this is quite hardcore. Okay, so we have Mending in Reverse. So we have Mending, and we have it in reverse. We have No Place Like Home, which I got for you loads in your bi-weeklies when I was trying to do those. And we have Flexible. They're your first 3 cards. So that's November, December, January. Okay, and then as I say, at the bottom of the deck, we have Higher Power. Right, so what do we have for you, Scorpio? My sense is, this is a 52 card, okay, 5 times 2 is 10. My sense is that you're going into November and there is no mending of a situation. I don't know what it is. It's a situation that involves communication, okay, possibly between 2 people. It could be a parent-child situation. It could be a parent-child situation. I don't think it's going to be the going to a practical level. Okay, I don't think it's going to be the end of communication between you and a child. Unless your child's just about to turn into an adult. Because then you're going to be communicating in a different way. That's my sense in that scenario. There's something about that. Parent-child situation. If your child's about to turn 16 or 18, or they've just moved away from home, or whatever that rite of passage is that transitions them from being an adult to a child to an adult, either from your perception or from the other person's perception, there is a lack of balance in how that's being perceived. So it could be that your child has moved away from home, you're seeing them as an adult now because they're not living at home, but they're still behaving like a child. If they've gone to uni, they're not turning up for lectures, they won't get a job, they're asking you for money all the time, they're bringing their washing home all the time, they're going out partying all the time instead of doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not behaving in a way that you see as being adult behaviour. It could go the other way. It could be that your child has moved away and they have started their adult life, or they have just turned 18 or whatever, and they are perceiving that you are still treating them like a child and they don't like it. There is an imbalance in that dynamic, which if they have just moved away or have just turned 18 or whatever, it's not surprising that that's going to take a little bit of time to kind of work its way through. I'm not seeing that it's a massive issue. What I am seeing over the course of this 3 months is that you're going to have to be flexible, but you're both going to have to be flexible. And I think for a lot of you, this is the situation that your child has actually moved away from home. So there's no place like home card. And it's a 5 and a 0, it's 50. So possibly, there may be arguments about this. It could be that they're moving out because there have been arguments at home. And there is going to need to be an element of flexibility in how you guys respond to each other in the future. There may be a need to be very aware of how you're directing them. See, it's pointing. How you're directing them. How you're directing the communication. You may need to be able to step back in situations where you would normally step in. So if they're not going to lectures or they're not getting a job or that kind of thing, there is an element to which previously you would have said something, but now you're getting to the point where you're realising that in order to, so you've got 10 and a 5, in order to not create arguments, you're going to have to be flexible. For some of you, it's going to work the other way. For some of you, if they are behaving like a child, there may be an element to which you need to stop being flexible. Yeah, 9 and a 1 as well, that reduces down to 10. So for some of you, you'll have to start being flexible, which is 1. For some of you, you need to put the boundaries in and say, no, you're not bringing the washing home all the time. No, I'm not giving you money all the time. No, I'm not bailing you out all the time. No, I'm not going to talk to your lecturers if you don't turn up to lectures. It's down to you. You're an adult to deal with it. There may be a need to kind of have this firmness with them that you've never really had to have before. But it's part of the rite of passage, and it's part of that, it's part of the transition between childhood and adulthood that you need to reassess your dynamic. and kind of work out who you're going to be as two adults rather than an adult-child situation. Yes, they're always going to be your child, but they are an adult person, so you need to have that kind of awareness of it, and so do they. And it is about the dynamics of that for some of you. Do we have work in here? That was in reverse. Let's turn that back round and see what we get from that. For some of you, this may be a new job, this may be a relocation of job, you've been offered something else, or you may be travelling away a lot as well. I don't know why I'm getting that. I'm just thinking it's communication between home and your children. So maybe this is you and you're trying to communicate with your children, but you're away from home a lot. And again, this is this card of being separated from home. Home feels really far away, and there's you up there, even further away. And for some of you, it's like you need to be flexible about this. But for others of you, I'm reading these cards as one block because sometimes they come in monthly, sometimes they come in a block over a period of time. In this case, it seems to be coming in a block over a period of time. So maybe this has just started happening, or maybe this is where you're getting to the point where you're realizing that it's starting to cause problems that you're away from home all the time. It's very specific, but I'm getting with younger children, you may be hearing that they've started doing something like bedwetting or something like that because they're anxious because you're not at home. There's just something that is just an awareness that is coming through, that this is causing an issue. Also, if you've split up with your partner and you have children, you may be coming to the fore that it is affecting your children in some way emotionally. And you're trying to find ways to resolve this issue. It could be that you can't be at home with them, but maybe you need to ring them at bedtime and say goodnight to them, or maybe go and tuck them in for a while, or just do something. If you can't do that with your, maybe you and your partner need to be or your ex-partner need to be quite flexible about this. For the children's welfare, regardless of what's going on between you, regardless of what the obstacles are between you two, maybe for the children's sake, you need to have this flexibility, and you need to work on not a new start in terms of your relationship, but in terms of like building your relationship for the benefit of the children. And maybe for some of you, if it's a work situation, maybe for some of you, you're deciding that this isn't sitting comfortably with you, and that home is more important. And you need to talk about flexible working with your boss, or you need to talk about spending more time at home. You've got these places that you're traveling to, and maybe you need to talk about to your boss and just say, look, no, I'm sorry, but I need to spend more time at home. So from that point of view, that could be any of those scenarios. Relationship-wise, if it's a relationship with an ex-partner and there are children involved, we've covered that one. If it is a relationship breakdown, I'm getting. If it's a relationship breakdown, perhaps there's just no mending it. Okay, there's no communication, there's nothing between you. Maybe you've stopped communicating. I tend to read cards both ways round. Maybe for some of you, maybe you are still communicating, but the communication is unbalanced, and it could be an air sign and an earth sign. The communication could be unbalanced. Again, it's a 5 and a 2, so it multiplies up to a 10. And 10's reduced down to, they're either 10s at the ending, or they reduce down to a 1. There is something unbalanced about communication, if communication is still happening, but I think for many the communication has stopped completely, and there's no mending this. Okay. Neither person is looking at the other one, they're both looking up at the sky. There's no interaction between the two of them, I'm seeing. I see cards in different ways, so, you know, for all its communication, I would say usually people are communicating, but with these two, they're both looking somewhere else. They're just not, they're both kind of focused on an air sign, I think, possibly, potentially, or just new horizons. If it's, so that's for this month. For next month, you may be shutting off a little bit. You may just be quite happy actually just staying at home and staying out of the conflict. 5 for me is a number of conflicts, 10 is the end of it. So you're just having a quiet life, you're just focusing on being at home, watching TV. Just kind of, it's a little bit like the Hermit card, but not as severe. You're just happy in your own space, quite honestly, and you're just plodding along with your day. And you're just going home in the evenings and just kind of sitting watching TV or looking out the window and watching the sunset. The nights are drawing in, so you're not particularly that keen on going out and doing anything, really. It's getting dark outside. You're quite happy just to snuggle in for the winter. Or in the UK, certainly. If you're in a different part of the world, maybe it's a different story. But yeah, either way, you're quite happy to just be at home. You're not that fussed about going out and socialising and stuff. If you're with a partner, then maybe you're just spending more time at home, just cuddled up on the sofa watching TV. Maybe you're spending time doing your house up. See, the house is up. Maybe you're spending time doing the house up. Maybe you're doing renovation work on your house. Maybe you're doing a loft conversion or something like that. And it's just taking a little bit of time to get going, but actually you're really pleased with the results. You have this beautiful sunset here. And yeah, maybe it's the end of conflict or end of strife in some ways. If you're having a loft conversion done, maybe it's been that you've been really, really cramped, and now you actually have a little bit more space to separate the children. So maybe the children can have their own rooms now, which would be really nice, and it might stop them arguing, which would be good. Yeah, for some of you, you're just focused on home and garden. You're just quite happy in your domesticity. Maybe you're exercising more. Maybe you're going to the gym more. Maybe you've taken up yoga. It sounds quite obvious, but for some people, that's probably the case. Maybe you're balancing what you're eating as well. I'm seeing these two things here. I have no idea why they look like plates, but they do. So maybe you're balancing what you're eating. You're just being more careful with what you're eating. You're exercising more and you're taking better care of yourself. Maybe you're going to classes. There's a sense of community. To me, these banners generally in communication. So maybe you are meeting new people, doing something like that. And maybe it's the start of a period of growth for you. Yeah, so this reduces down to a 1. Maybe it's the start of a period of growth for you. Maybe it's a time when you're actually more focused on yourself and more focused on your own potential. These eggs always seem to me like potential, and she's kind of looking down. She's balanced on her egg and she's just looking down and she's focusing quite hard on that. So maybe you're focusing on yourself and your home, possibly your family, your garden, and you just kind of, I'm not seeing any major conflict here, apart from if you are travelling away. Yeah, okay, you might have had a relationship breakdown, but I'm not seeing any major tears over it. There just seems to be a sense of acceptance that it wasn't to be, and that's just it, really. I'm not seeing any major, maybe one person is a little bit upset about it, because the wings are quite droopy. The other person's not that bothered, to be honest. So maybe one person's a little bit upset about it, but they're not crying, they're still looking up. And they're not looking at the other person longingly, hoping for them to contact them or anything like that, you know. They're just kind of like, yeah, it's okay, got my own stuff going on. And maybe you're listening to your intuition. Maybe you're just focusing on yourself. Maybe you're focusing on your spirituality. Maybe your intuition is telling you that the mending is just not going to happen. But it just seems to me like you're focusing on yourself more. And when I say intuition, it's not like sitting meditating intuition. It's more just like you're kind of internalizing a little bit. which is kind of quite good. So the first card that you had is spiritual understanding for here. And I feel that that just ties in with the higher power. It's a bit of a funny card, this. Some of these cards are a bit strange to me because it says, I am bringing you esoteric information and symbols and helping you to understand spiritual truth. It could be that this was with a soulmate and you've learned something from the experience. It could be that you are looking at your life, possibly in a more spiritual way, possibly in a more balanced way. Okay, and maybe you're starting to see the complexity of how things fit together. For some of you, you may be planning, because that takes quite a lot of planning, okay, to make a shape like that. Maybe some of you are doing quite a lot of planning. Maybe some of you are in a kind of field where you need to plan. So maybe you're like designers, or you're having plans done for the house or something like that. So I'm not thinking planning long-term future, I'm thinking planning as in if you're an engineer, or if you're at uni or whatever and you're doing maths or engineering or computer science or something like that. The idea of programming, the idea of kind of programming and actually drawing plans and something creative in that sense. So you're kind of using your imagination to draw these plans. Or if you're working away from home a lot, maybe you're kind of like trying to plan your work so that you're kind of in different places, but you can still be home, you know, as much as possible. He's got this heart in the middle, where his throat chakra would be, actually. So it's like, how can we communicate better? It's about communication, I think, and how to do that. Be courageous and stand up for your beliefs. Again, you know, it's what you believe in. This is why you're internalizing. You're going in to work out what your belief structures are. I had this for Virgo as well at the beginning. Be courageous and stand up for your beliefs. You know, the things that you believe in, the things that you prioritize. And stand up for that. If it is that you're moving away from home, that you're working away from home, you need to stand up for the fact that you need to be at home with your family. If you are having issues with your ex-partner, but you need to think about your children, you need to be brave about that and basically just kind of like say, no, we need to sort this out for the kids. Notice the loving guidance, clairaudience. Notice the loving guidance you hear inside your mind and from other people. So yeah, it's kind of, it is about just what do you think about it, and maybe talking to other people, but then standing up for your beliefs, you know, take other people's feelings into consideration, you know, try and keep it peaceful. That's a peace card. And it says, peace comes from remembering that only love is real. And maybe that's what you're having to focus on. Maybe this focus on no place like home is about making the things that you love and who you love your first priority, and trying to work the rest of your life around them. So that's your first 3 months. So that's November, December, January. So that takes us up to January. So let's do February, March, April. My throat is really starting to go now. I'm really sorry. I dread to think who's going to get the last reading, because it's just going to be like, oh my god. Okay, first card. It's February. March. These are the same. These cards came out for Virgo too. So maybe there's a big crossover between you and Virgo. Not in the same months, in fairness, but there does seem to be quite a crossover between you and Virgo. And April was slow coming out for them as well. April was really slow coming out for them. The first two cards came out really quickly, and then April took ages to come out, and the same's happening for you. And that for me is Virgo card, chop wood. Okay, so bottom of the deck for this one, we have chaos and conflict. Okay, 33 card, possible third party situation, but I'm not going to dwell on it. Third party situations are a nightmare for readers because it looks like that's all we ever talk about. But if you think about it, you have your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign. Everyone else involved has their sun sign, their moon sign, their rising sign. So essentially that's like 9 potential signs involved in this. So it looks like everyone's having a third party situation, but actually it could just be, you know, a combination of people. Yeah, Virgos were having a lot. They were coming up in everybody's reading. Okay, so possible third party situation, possibly not, possibly chaos and conflict. Again, this comes back to what we were following on from with the other cards, was that perhaps, you know, if you are in conflict with your ex-partner and you have to think about the children, there are 3 people in that. Possibly you're both in different relationships, or some of you have more children than others. So maybe one person's got 2 children and then somebody else is in a relationship and they have a child, or whatever. Any kind of combination of 3 and 3, potentially. I'm feeling that the child who is having the issue may possibly be the child who is a 1. So if there are 2 adults and then there is 1 child, it could potentially be that child that's having the issue. Possibly. And it could be with the other partner. It could be with the other person's partner. Perhaps things are starting to break down a little bit. And someone's showing their true colours. This is what this card always shows to me, is someone's showing their true colours, what they were presenting. And Virgo had this massively in their reading, that like what they were presenting or what someone else was presenting was very different to what was inside. And they had this, I believe, in their bi-weekly as well. So there's a massive crossover between you guys. Yeah, and maybe this is happening, and maybe your partner's with someone who they haven't been with for very long, and now the true colours are starting to come out and it's affecting your child. It could be that it's causing issues between you and your ex-partner. Maybe this person's quite jealous and it's starting to cause issues between you and your ex-partner. It could be any combination of those things. It could be a work situation where... I'm not getting it so much for a work situation now. Virgo had that I know you're not Virgo. Virgo had that they had gone into a job and it wasn't quite what it seemed. Okay. Or they had taken on an employee who put across one kind of face, and then over a progression of time, it turned out that they weren't quite what was expected to, and then they let them go, actually, in that case. So that's what we have. But going on, so we're into February, March, April. All of your cards are in reverse. But what that means for me when I do reversals is that it could go either way. So for some of you it will go one way, for some it will go the other. It's just that it's like major arcana, minor arcana cards. It's like the major arcana ones, which are the ones which are divinely guided, and the minor arcana ones are the ones where basically it's down to your free will how it turns out. And when I get reversals, it tends to feel like that to me. It's like the energy comes in, but you choose what you do with it. So for this one, we have regeneration, and it's in reverse. Okay, so this is February. So we have regeneration. This is kind of feeling a little bit work-like to me, to be honest. These could be a little bit turbulent at work, but underneath the surface, it's like maybe it's very stressful. Maybe there are conflicts in the workplace. You had this in your readings last time, that there were conflicts in the workplace. And it seems like maybe they kind of like calmed down a little bit, but it looks like they may be re-emerging. Because I think what's happened is that this tree has been growing, but as it's been growing, because of the environment, it started to grow in quite a bizarre way. So if you're working on a project or something, perhaps you had deadlines and things like that, and because of this underlying conflict, things got a little bit, I'm going to say twisted. Twisted is the wrong word, but distorted maybe, and maybe you've kind of gone off track a little bit in terms of the initial end goals, and maybe something's happened and you've had to go off in a different direction. So what you've ended up with is something which is different from what you were expecting in the first place, or it's not growing in the way that you would have wanted it to. I mean, it's very pretty, this tree. It's got like flowers and things on it. But maybe it's a really effective project, but maybe it's just not what was asked for. And again, this is a 46, it's a 10 card. Okay, add them together, you get a 10 and then you get a 1. So it could go either way. It could be regeneration or it could be not just regeneration. Okay. Regeneration sometimes to me, excuse me, regeneration sometimes to me, it's regeneration, new baby. And I did Sagittarius, I think, first. And Sagittarius, I believe, got the, oh, it was Virgo, I can't remember. One of the other readings anyway, rubbish, but was saying that a child was upset. We're going back to the children thing about bedwetting and all that kind of stuff. A child being disturbed by something. It may be there's a new baby on the way, and kind of that would make a little bit of sense because you've got this one person and then you've got something else in the middle. And maybe one of your children is upset because there's a new baby on the way, and this is why they're behaving the way that they are. And maybe there are quite a few tantrums and issues coming up. There's a lot of anger there. And they, you know, in some ways they might be quite excited by the news. The news might come in, they might be quite excited by it, and they think that it's, you know, really good news, but they're really quite scared of it, and that's what's creating these tantrums and these problems under the surface, because they're not quite sure what to expect. If you're thinking about it, if you're thinking like parents have split up, this child has gone off with one set of parents, particularly if the other parent is having to travel for work or whatever, and then this new parent comes in, and then suddenly there's a baby. If your child's quite young, I'm thinking probably 8 or 9. If your child's quite young and this new baby's come along, they may be wondering where they sit within the family dynamic. And that could be quite frightening for them, because they're going to feel that's not a normal tree, and maybe they feel that they're not part of the family tree now. You know, this is mummy and Steve's new baby, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or Daddy and Helen's new baby. I don't know who Steve and Helen are, but you know, that's their baby, and I'm not their baby. So where do I fit into this? And this is causing this anxiety underneath here, and potentially anger and tantrums, and they're acting out because of this. So for some children, that's possibly where they are. And it's not that they're angry about the baby. They're not angry about the baby. That's not what the issue is. The issue is that they're worried about where they fit into the family dynamic now. And that's what's causing them anxiety. So I'm suggesting, or it is being suggested to me, that this might need to be addressed. And the regeneration is about talking to them and making them realise that, yes, okay, this new baby is coming, and this is Mummy and Steve's new baby, but I love you, you're my baby too, and he loves you because, you know, and your daddy loves you, and having that conversation with them, you know, and understanding that it's not that they're acting out because they're angry about the baby or anything else, it's they're acting out of fear. So I'm looking at this light coming in from above, and I'm just thinking that's kindness, you know, kindness and understanding, coming in from someone higher, just in terms of height-wise. So just shower lots and lots of love, and we should be okay. So that's that storyline. For regeneration in terms of a relationship, it kind of mirrors the card that we had in the last part of the reading where there was no mending. It's upside down, okay? So for that relationship, yeah, there's no mending, there's no growth, there's no regeneration. If it were to come back, it just wouldn't be working, okay? There's something not quite right about it. I think there's too much anger and there's too much distortion. No matter how much hope you've still got this underlying anger and distortion, and it's just not going to grow the way that, even if you tried it again, I don't think it would grow the way that you would expect it to or want it to. On the surface it could be quite good, but there is this underlying issue that is there. Okay. And work-wise, again, if you're traveling away from home, yeah, if you're traveling away from home, it's still going to be challenging. It is still going to be challenging. It's still going to be a rocky road, but I think it's the end of it. You've had the 4 and the 6, and maybe for some of you, you just say, yeah, I'm not doing it anymore because it's just, there is no foundation to this. Look what it's doing to my children. I'm not doing this anymore. So maybe you decide not to do it anymore. So that's that one. Is there anything new comes out in that? Your boss may not be very happy about it. This tree, the bit at the top, always makes me think of The Wall, Pink Floyd's The Wall, and they have that the brick, another brick in the wall, or whatever the story's called. In the video for it, they have that school teacher. Your boss may not be happy about it. He may be quite angry about it. Okay. But your priorities, you know, you have your priorities, and that's just how it's going to go. So then we have blessed. So this is February, March. You have blessed, but we have it in reverse. And again, you're feeling quite trapped by this in some ways, or this, you know, you're feeling quite trapped. This beautiful fairy, as I say, Virgo had this too. And this beautiful fairy, she presents as a fairy, and it mirrors this card where there is something presenting as something else. And again, there is something presenting as something else. That's meant to be a tree, but how the heck that's a tree, I really don't know. Someone presenting as something else. So maybe this is you. And you have your fairy wings and you can fly, but actually you're feeling quite trapped and in this goldfish bowl. And it could be to do with work. It could be to do with work. It's that you know that this needs to end. This conflict at work needs to end, or your boss needs to stop being such a git. And you just need to get out of there. And this is your anger bubbling up from underneath, and you're starting to get really, really annoyed about it, but you feel trapped. You know that there's this beautiful world out there, but at the moment you feel trapped. You want to fly off and do other things, but at the moment you just don't feel that you can. And it could be financial. It could be financial, but I don't think it is. I think it's to do with reputation. I think for some of you, it's like you don't want to walk away from this project or this job under a cloud. You know, she's kind of above the clouds. But under a cloud, you don't want to walk away from this job under a cloud, because possibly for some of you, It's that you work in an industry where it's quite, I'm using the word incestuous, but I mean it in terms of everyone knows everyone. Maybe if you're a planning type person, you know, if you're an engineer or whatever, you don't want to walk away from this big engineering project because everyone knows everyone and people will talk, and your reputation is really important to you, and it will be important to you in the future when you're trying to get extra work. So you're trying to, it's like 44 to me is always firm foundations. So this is like you're trying to maintain firm foundations, but it's not quite there yet. So maybe this is why you're trapped. I don't think it's about money because there's no pentacle energy in there, but I think you're feeling trapped by circumstances. For some of you, you may be feeling trapped by emotions. When I looked at the Virgo card, she's presenting as a fairy, but then when I followed this round, it actually looks like a mermaid tail. So for them, it was like they're trying to be creative and things like that, but they're also very emotional. And I wonder whether, again, if this is your child, it could be that they're so in their head about all these different things that could be happening, and that they're worried that they're going to get left down here when other children come in or whatever. And maybe it's just that you or your partner have got a new partner even. It doesn't even have to be a baby. But maybe they're so in their head about it that it is just making them, and I'm actually feeling, you know, that sense that you get when you feel so emotional, you feel sick. And it could be that they're presenting with like not psychological problems, psychosomatic problems, where it's actually making them quite ill and they're losing time off school and stuff like that because of it. And that's my concern. So it could be that you may need to do something about that. For some of you, for the ones that were in a relationship that ended and were quite happy at home, it could be for some of you that you get into a new relationship and you end up with something that's a little bit quirky but very passionate, very inspiring, but with someone who's kind of outside your usual type. And you're not sure whether it's going to grow or not. You can see leaves on it, but you're not sure whether that kind of tree is meant to have more leaves than that. So you're not entirely sure what's going on there. But it has got leaves. So maybe to a certain extent, you're just going to kind of go with the flow because there's all this lovely passion and inspiration. So you're kind of a bit like, okay, we'll just see what happens there. So then you have this blessed card, and in that case, you know, maybe things start to progress and, you know, you're feeling quite in your emotions about it. But she doesn't look that happy. She never looks very happy. She looks really sparkly and lovely. Maybe you're Scorpio, you're a water sign, right? So I would expect lots of passion from you. I expect lots of emotion from you as well. But maybe this person is an air sign and you're trying to act like an air sign, whereas actually this is your mermaid tail. You're trying to act like an air sign because this person acts like an air sign. Maybe they're an air sign and an earth sign or a fire sign. Doesn't really help, does it? But there's no water in that. And you're Scorpio, so you're a water sign. So maybe they're an earth sign or an air sign or a fire sign. I don't think a fire sign because that could be your passion. Could be passionate earth sign. Earth signs can get quite passionate, even though they're earth signs. But this is water. This is her mermaid tail. So maybe you're feeling quite trapped because you can't be your normal emotional self. There's lots of passion here. There's lots of ideas and inspiration here. But you're not feeling any emotion in this. And you're quite an emotional person and you want to be emotional. So maybe you're feeling a little bit not able to be yourself, which is why Virgo got this card of like putting on this front of being this really glamorous, like sorted on the outside, intellectual, blah, blah, blah. But you're a Scorpio and you want to be emotional. And you're not feeling you can be emotional in this relationship. Or maybe you are being emotional in this relationship. And if you're with an air sign, they quite like it. But there's no earth sign in this. So maybe, because this is in reverse, maybe this ends if it's an earth sign. But if it's an air sign, it works well. That would make sense. Okay. Oh, gosh, sorry. My head went all dizzy then. So what do we have next? And then we have chopped wood, which I've just said that there's no earth in this. And this, to me, is a Virgo card because it's all about, and it's a very earthly card anyway, to me, because it's all about the work, okay? It's about the mundane, everyday work. And it's about attention to detail, and it's about dusting the top of your doors, and it's about hoovering the skirting boards, and hoovering under your bed, and, you know, the real kind of nitty-gritty OCD stuff that comes along with many Virgos. And maybe there is this opportunity to be in this. Maybe there is this opportunity to be in this, but maybe it's just too hard work. It's in reverse though. So it could be the Virgo's gone because you found them too hard work. I'm not seeing a third party situation in here, and this is actually a 2 and a 2. So I'm not seeing a third party situation in here at all. Though we did kind of say here that there could potentially be one. So it could be that there's been an air sign and a fire sign, air sign and a earth sign involved. But I think maybe this Virgo or this earth sign might have gone by this point, because we're down to a 2 and a 2, and there's only like the water sign and the air sign. There's no earth in that. So I think if it was a 3, I think it's come down to a 2 already. And 4 fours, firm foundation. And I said in your last one, you were a 2-2. This one, you were a 2-2. You're trying to get that firm foundation. But now you're up to a 4 and a 2. So actually, maybe your foundations are getting a little bit firmer. You're halfway there. Okay, you're halfway there. But not with this earth sign, because the earth signs. Or maybe it goes the other way. And maybe if you are with an earth sign, your foundation goes up to a 4 and a 2. So maybe with the air sign, you're not getting such a firm foundation. But with the earth sign, you are, but it's harder work. And it's a bit more boring. And it's a bit more like work. Or just mundane stuff. All these readings are kind of running in together. But one of them was saying that they met their soulmate, Sagittarius. Sagittarius met their soulmate. And maybe you're not an earth sign. Maybe you got it in your chart. Sagittarius, if you've got Sagittarius in your chart, maybe you met an earth sign soulmate. and you just felt really comfortable with them. And I think they got this card too. And it was just really comfortable and nurturing and inspiring. Not inspiring, but you just felt really, really comfortable with them. And you were thinking, yeah, this is a long-term thing, and maybe this is what's happening. So maybe if you've got Sagittarius in your chart, by April, maybe you're getting really firm foundations by this point, which would be really nice. That would be lovely. And communication is good. It's not, it's kind of grey and dull. It's not massively inspiring like this. But there is some of that, because you've got some of that light coming in. And you've got some air in there as well. So maybe it's someone, maybe it's if you've got someone who's an earth sign who's got air in their chart as well. And maybe a little bit of water. But we've all got everything. So yeah, so for that, where are our children? How are our children doing? I think the children are okay at this point. I think if you sit down and have this conversation, you're probably okay. I think you managed to talk round. I think if you and your partner, if new baby coming, I think if you managed to talk round, I think we managed to, you'll sit down together and have the conversation and show a bit of a united front. I think we actually sort that one out. You're all 4s and 2s and 6s. Well, you're all 4s and 2s, actually. There we go. Beloved one. Yeah, there we go. Soulmate relationship. I'm helping you with your spiritual soulmate relationship. And this is what we were saying about the chopped wood. Maybe it's a soulmate. So maybe it's something to do with having Sagittarius in your chart. I'm aware of time. These really are all running into each other. I can't even remember how far on we are. Big tree. I said into April, didn't I? This isn't April. This is May, June, July. It's kind of following on the year, so it's like what I asked for when I first asked for it was just to kind of follow on through the year. So the dates are going to be quite fluid anyway. But it's going to take us up to the end of October next year. So you have another one of these. Chakra clearing, okay? And it's call upon me to clear and open your chakras using sacred geometric shapes. Again, that's the other card that I was talking about, where it's like, it's the shapes, it's the planning. I'll show you the card again in a minute. I don't know why I'm still quite shuffling. This card always comes up as a marker to tell me to stop shuffling. I think I might have said that to you already. Right, okay, so we have beloved one. I'm helping you with your spiritual soulmate relationship. So whatever's happening here, okay, maybe it's the same person, because this has got, there's you, Scorpio, because you have your passion, okay, or your earth as well there. So you have your earth sign, you have your earth sign. You have your air sign, you have your air sign. Okay, you have your air sign. So maybe this person here, is this person here. And actually, for all they're not your usual type, yeah, it sounds really cruel. But all they're not your usual type, this little tree makes a really good broom. Okay. So, it's like, maybe they're not your usual type because they're a little bit wooden and you're used to a bit more glamour. And maybe they are a little bit wooden and a little bit more quirky, but actually they're really good at doing the housework. And, you know, this is your soulmate. It's your soulmate. And maybe you do need to get past that, you know, and it takes you that length of time to actually get here. And it could be that you actually start thinking about moving in together at this point. You know, you go through all this, and then you get to here and your the foundation's a little bit firmer. And then by this point, maybe you're actually thinking of moving, you know, not moving in together, because that would be really, really quick. I mean, for some of you, you might. But for others of you, maybe you're actually thinking, yeah, maybe this is going to work. Maybe this is genuinely going to work. And then you're blessed. Yeah, and then you have victory. And it's like your prayers have been heard and answered. Have faith. So you're kind of like, at this point, you're like, yeah, do you know what? This actually could be okay. And then you just kind of stick with it. And then you've got your chopped wood. Call upon me to clear and open your chakras using sacred geometric shapes. And look, if you look here, it's the same as the other one, where you've got all this like really intricate detail. And maybe this is your Virgo, because they really like their details, okay? And maybe they're really OCD about cleaning and stuff like that. And, you know, you're just like, hallelujah, someone else is going to do the housework. Yeah, and you're standing quite happy about it, and you're quite happy to hand over all planning and detail. And you're like, there you go, let's have it. Yeah, and that's that. So marvelous. So you're getting there. In terms of children and work with that reading, we get to this point and it really is just work. You know, it really is just work. It's like you recognise your blessings at this point. And all right, maybe you might not feel like you're most comfortable, but you're willing to put the work in. You're willing to put the work into whatever situation needs it to deal with it. And it might not be exciting and it might not be great, and you might be having to work in that Pentacles energy if you're in a job where you're having to travel, but you feel trapped and you can't get out of it. Maybe it is just about focusing on the fact that you just need to stick to your Pentacles until you find something else, which is really sad, I suppose, for some people, because you don't want that, especially if it's affecting your children. But we're not at the end of the reading yet, okay? So we'll see how we go. We've got 3 more cards to pull. So this is for August, September, October 2018 for Scorpio. I can see I'm going to be at this all night. It's already 2:25 and I've done 3 readings. And I don't even know if we're going to get them up on YouTube. Whoa, there's lots. I'm not going to take those. Though that's really weird because they were all Sagittarius cards. Sagittarius cards. No, they were Virgo cards. They were all Virgo cards. 4 of them fell out and they were all in Virgo's reading. You have got a massive affinity with Virgo at the moment. I don't know astrology. I don't know whether there's something to do with Virgo in your charts. It's really strange though, because I've met 2 Scorpios recently and they both came across, they both had Virgo in their chart as well. One of them was a Virgo, Scorpio rising, the Virgo moon, and his entire chart was made up of Aries, Virgo and Scorpio. And the other one was a Virgo anyway, who had a Scorpio rising. And they're the only 2 Scorpios I've known since I left school. Or that I know of, anyway. 3 generations come back up again. This is why I put them back. Virgo had the same thing. They had one card come up and then come up again the following month too. What card was it? It was about getting balance. It's a card of getting balance. Whoops. Had 3 cards. One card is definitely fallen out, which is here and now, which you had. Blessed, which you've just had. And then the other one that just about fell out was this one. I'm going to take all those three together. And I'm also going to give these a bit of a shuffle. It's the same thing. And Sagittarius had this with these cards. That every single card that came up throughout their reading ended up in a pile on the... they were in and they were shuffled again for a good minute and a half. And then they all came out again. Nothing else, just the cards that they'd already had. There's something really weird going on with the synchronicities and the energy. I've never had a day like this before. It's that song, isn't it? Never known a girl like you before. Weird tree, okay? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is. You've got why. And it's like, why is this like affecting me the way it is? Why do I keep coming back to this regeneration? Why do I keep coming back to this person? You know, I don't understand why I keep coming back to this person. And there's something about them. And for that, for some of you, it is that it's like, it's not just here and now, it's forever. And it's like, you know, you're really blessed because you genuinely have. You've come home. You've come home. It's an unfinished symphony, you know. It's just going to go on and on and on. And it's because it's a soulmate. We had Beloved One in the last the last month, and it's because it's a soulmate, and that's why it keeps coming around. And you're like, why do I keep coming back to this person? Why do I keep coming back to this? Why do I keep coming back to this? I think for the ones who this relationship is important, this possible Virgo relationship, I think it's a soulmate. I think it's a soulmate. Because soulmates are here to teach us a lesson. They're not necessarily here to be our Hollywood soulmates. They're here to teach us something. And we keep coming back and coming back and coming back until we get the lesson. And again, I think Virgo got soulmate too. I'm going to have to watch the reading again. Right, are you going to give me any cards, please? I think not. I think I'm not getting any. I keep getting the same cards going through over and over again. Right, there's two here. Peace. I think you had that one too. Spiritual understanding, you certainly had that. Peace, I think you had. Or Virgo had it, one of the two. Peace comes from remembering that only love is real. So either you had it or Virgo had it. It's all kind of merging into one now. One card that just about fell out then is this, yeah, and that's the marker. It's my marker card, keeps coming up. And Virgo had that one too. Hello from heaven. Your loved ones in heaven are doing fine. Let go of worries and feel their loving blessings. They had it come up for what I thought was August, and actually it turned out to be July. Now, but to me it was August, okay? And you've got it in that August thing as well. I think you may have a Virgo soulmate. Or you have Virgo in your chart and you've just met your soulmate. One of the two. I think it's a really important relationship, whatever it is. This is kind of repeating, okay, we have this thing about the children. I was just thinking, you know, this thing about children, and it was just like, why are they behaving like that? And then this card comes back up and they're behaving like it because they're afraid. This is just summing up, we've covered everything. and it's here and now, and we're back to the child feeling left out again because of the baby, you know, and then having this two, you know, all sitting down together and having this conversation, and then being trapped in their heads and feeling really emotional, and you find this out, you find out why, and then you deal with it, or the fact that you're away from home, or they're separated from you, or whatever. So that's that one. In terms of why, in terms of work, it's pretty much the same story. It's like, why? Regeneration. It's just like it hasn't grown the way that you would have expected it to. And we've got here and now in reverse, and it's just like, is there any coming back from this, is my question. I think it's here and now, but I think what it's saying is actually the fact that it's in reverse is saying that, you know, it is a temporary situation that you're in. It is a temporary situation that you're in. And then if you have these conversations, if you have conversations with people, for some reason 2-2 today seems like conversations. If you have conversations with people, you can actually get it sorted out, and there will be peace and harmony once more. And again, there we go, we have peace. Spiritual understanding, you sit down and you draw your engineering plans or do whatever it is that you do, which is your speciality, and then you're fine. And then we're just pulling back in the fact that I think that this is just pulling back in the fact that this is either a twin flame or it's something to do with Virgo, because they had that in their August and you've got this in your August as well. And it just seems to be repeating the same pattern again. Scorpio, what is it with you and Virgo? There is obviously a soulmate there. There is a soulmate there. But we'll see how it goes. You'll have to see how it goes. Anyway, I will let you go. I knew it was going to be over an hour because they, you know, that is the card that they had come back the second time. You know, I said that you had one that came back again. Yeah, to be fair. You had one came back, regeneration came back again the second time round. This came back, to be fair. Getting back into balance. That's the card that they had. And they also had this as well. Exchanging gifts. They're the two that are on the bottom of the pack. Right. There is a massive connection between you two. Huge, huge connection between you two. Or it could be that you've got them both in your chart. I don't know which. Anyway, my lovely Scorpios, have a happy Halloween. And I hope you get lots of nice treats. And I will speak to you, if I can still talk, I will speak to you when I do the November readings after I finish this. All right, lots of love to you. Take care. Bye-bye.